Russia's preparation for war with NATO, a red line warning and its implications. Introduction. Tensions between Russia and NATO have escalated significantly, with Russia openly preparing for a potential military conflict in the next decade. Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, in a recent meeting alongside President Vladimir Putin, emphasized the need for the Ministry of Defense to be ready for any development of events. This announcement comes amid the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict and increasing Western support for Ukraine, which Putin has warned is crossing a critical, red line. Historical background. The roots of the current conflict between Russia and NATO trace back to the Cold War era. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, was formed in 1949 as a collective defense alliance against the Soviet Union. The dissolution of the USSR in 1991 reduced tensions temporarily. However, NATO's eastward expansion into former Soviet states reignited geopolitical rivalries. Key events. 1. 1999–2004, NATO expands to include Poland, Hungary, and Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. 2. 2008, NATO hints at future membership for Ukraine and Georgia, alarming Russia. 3. 2014, Russia annexes Crimea following Ukraine's pro-Western revolution, sparking Western sanctions. 4. 2022, Russia invades Ukraine, framing NATO's influence as a security threat. For Russia, NATO's military buildup near its borders and increasing presence in Eastern Europe symbolize a direct threat to its sovereignty. Key developments. 1. Andrei Belousov's statement. The Russian defense minister declared that preparations for a potential conflict with NATO are essential for Russia's security. Russia aims to fortify its military and ensure dominance on its current battlefronts in Ukraine. 2. NATO's actions. NATO's July 2023 summit reaffirmed its support for Ukraine and commitment to expanding military readiness in Europe. The US has stationed over 100,000 troops in Europe. 3. Putin's red line warning. Putin accuses the West, particularly the US, of exacerbating tensions by providing extensive military support to Ukraine. He reiterated Russia's stance that it cannot retreat further without a decisive response. 4. Russia's recruitment drive. More than 427,000 troops have been recruited in 2023, signaling the Kremlin's push to build a resilient military force. Pros and cons of Russia preparing for war with NATO. Pros, from Russia's perspective. Strategic readiness. Preparing for a conflict strengthens Russia's military position and deters NATO from further encroachment. Geopolitical leverage. A powerful military presence gives Russia bargaining power in diplomatic negotiations. National security. Russia ensures its defense capabilities match NATO's growing military infrastructure near its borders. Cons. Economic strain. Sustaining military preparations amidst sanctions and economic stagnation is costly for Russia. Global isolation. Aggressive rhetoric risks further alienating Russia from international partners and allies. Escalation of conflict. An arms race with NATO increases the likelihood of accidental or intentional conflicts. Facts and figures. NATO has over 100,000 American troops stationed across Europe. Russia recruited 427,000 new troops in 2023, equating to 1,200 soldiers per day. The war in Ukraine has cost tens of thousands of lives and billions of dollars in resources. NATO's July 2023 summit reaffirmed its expansion and support for Ukraine. Recent developments. Western support for Ukraine. The US and other NATO countries continue to send military aid, including advanced weapons systems, despite Russian warnings. Donald Trump's intervention. US President-elect Trump has advocated for a swift resolution to the war, encouraging a deal between Ukraine and Russia. Russia's advancements. According to Belousov, Russia has seized momentum in the Ukraine war, with advances in Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhia regions. Putin and Belousov's warnings reflect growing anxieties about NATO's policies and actions. The prospect of a conflict with NATO underscores the fragile balance in European security. Analysis. Russia's warnings of a future conflict with NATO mark a significant shift in its strategic outlook. By combining war rhetoric with military mobilization, Russia seeks to project strength both domestically and internationally. However, this approach presents risks. 1. Economic and political costs. Russia's economy, already weakened by sanctions, may struggle to sustain prolonged military preparations. 2. NATO solidarity. Aggressive posturing may strengthen NATO unity and prompt further military deployments in Eastern Europe. 3. Risk of miscalculation. The rising tension increases the risk of direct confrontation between nuclear-armed powers, which would have catastrophic consequences. Conclusion. Russia's declaration of preparing for a potential war with NATO is a stark reminder of the deepening geopolitical divide between Moscow and the West. While Russia perceives NATO's actions as a direct threat, its militaristic rhetoric risks further escalation and global instability. The situation calls for careful diplomacy to prevent Europe from descending into a broader conflict. While leaders like Trump emphasize dialogue and negotiation, achieving a peaceful resolution will require compromises from all parties involved. For now, Russia's red line warning serves as both a strategic message to NATO and a signal of its intent to secure its geopolitical interests, no matter the cost. Key takeaways. Russia is actively preparing for a potential military conflict with NATO in the coming